Every day, millions of square feet of drywall disappear behind the walls of modern buildings. But behind this ordinary building material is a manufacturing system operating on an enormous scale. But every sheet of drywall begins with a mineral formed over millions of years beneath the earth. Before the mineral can be extracted, massive drilling rigs first penetrate the geological deposit. Once the deposit is exposed, massive excavators begin removing the gypsum-bearing rock. The freshly excavated gypsum is loaded into massive haul trucks and transported toward the processing plant. At the processing plant, the massive truck unloads the raw gypsum into the first stage of the production line. From here, powerful crushing machines begin breaking the massive rocks into smaller fragments. The crushed material is then screened, separating the particles by size before further processing. Oversized fragments are sent back through additional crushing until the material reaches the required size. Now the screened gypsum enters the fine grinding stage, where powerful rotating equipment reduces the fragments into a much finer, more uniform powder. Inside the classifier, airflow separates the particles by size. Fine gypsum moves forward, while oversized particles return to the mill for another grinding cycle.
The correctly classified gypsum powder now leaves the grinding loop and moves forward, ready for the next stage of controlled processing.
The finely classified gypsum powder is temporarily stored in a sealed silo, where controlled handling keeps the material uniform before the next processing stage. From the storage silo, controlled discharge keeps the fine gypsum moving steadily toward the next stage without interrupting the continuous process. A controlled feeder delivers the gypsum at a precise rate, preparing the uniform powder for the next transformation in the process. With its flow precisely controlled, the uniform gypsum powder now enters the next stage, where carefully controlled conditions begin transforming its properties. Inside the processing vessel, controlled heat begins transforming the gypsum, driving off part of its chemically bound water. Controlled cooling stabilizes the processed gypsum, preparing its temperature and condition for the final stages of production. Once stabilized, the gypsum enters final conditioning, where controlled handling prepares it for consistent performance in its finished form. Before packaging, samples are carefully checked to confirm the finished gypsum meets the required quality and consistency standards. After passing quality control, the finished gypsum powder is directed toward the final preparation and packaging system. Automated filling systems accurately measure the finished gypsum powder before sealing each package for distribution. Once filled to the correct level, each package is sealed to protect the gypsum during storage and transportation. Sealed packages pass through final inspection, where automated systems verify their condition before shipment. After final inspection, approved gypsum packages are automatically arranged into stable pallet loads for efficient storage and transport. The completed pallet is wrapped and secured, protecting the finished gypsum packages during handling, storage, and transport. The secured gypsum pallets are transferred into organized storage, ready for controlled dispatch to customers and construction sites. From the warehouse, finished gypsum products are loaded for delivery, completing the journey from raw mineral to ready-to-use material. From raw gypsum rock to a finished product, every stage transforms, controls, and prepares the material for real-world use. And that journey ends here. Engineered gypsum becoming part of the buildings and spaces around us. One mineral, dozens of controlled stages. One engineered material ready to shape the world around us. Behind every finished building is a hidden chain of engineering, precision, and transformation that begins with a simple mineral.
From earth to industry, gypsum completes its transformation, and the cycle begins again with the next load of raw material. The next load enters the line, and the same remarkable transformation begins all over again. As the factory keeps running, another load of gypsum begins the journey from raw rock to engineered material. And from this first separation, the entire chain of grinding, transformation, and precision begins again. The screened fragments now enter the grinding stage,
restarting the controlled transformation that creates the fine gypsum powder. The newly ground powder enters classification, where only the correct particle size continues toward the next transformation. Once the correct particle size is achieved, the gypsum moves forward to the thermal stage, where its properties are carefully transformed. Inside the controlled thermal system, the gypsum undergoes the transformation that gives the processed material its final performance characteristics. After thermal treatment, the transformed gypsum moves into controlled cooling, where its condition is stabilized before final preparation. Once cooled and stabilized, the processed gypsum is conditioned for uniformity before it moves toward final quality control. Before packaging, the new batch is carefully checked to confirm the process has produced consistent, reliable gypsum. After passing final checks, the approved gypsum powder enters the packaging line, ready to become a finished product once again. The approved gypsum powder is precisely measured and filled into each package, ready for secure sealing and final handling. Once filled, each package is securely sealed, protecting the finished gypsum as it moves toward inspection and distribution. Each sealed package passes through final inspection, confirming the new batch is ready for handling and distribution. After inspection, the approved packages are palletized, secured, and prepared to leave the factory for their next destination. Screened gypsum fragments enter the fine grinding section for controlled particle size reduction. Grinding forces reduce gypsum fragments into a consistent, finely processed powder.
Air classification separates fine particles from coarser material for consistent fineness.
Coarse particles return through a closed loop for additional grinding. Uniformly fine gypsum powder exits classification and moves toward collection. Filtration separates gypsum powder from air, improving recovery and workplace cleanliness. Recovered gypsum powder enters sealed handling equipment for controlled product discharge. Finished gypsum powder moves into storage, ready for packaging or shipment. Stored gypsum powder enters final handling systems for accurate packaging preparation. From raw mineral to refined powder, precision engineering completes the transformation.